Good morning, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to another edition of First Edition. No, I'm not Cheryl Ann Foreman. Of course, I am Zoya Faessler. Today we examine policing, leadership, and public trust with Commissioner Fitz Bailey of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force at a time of commendation, progress, and scrutiny. Commissioner Bailey, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Commissioner, no murders recorded so far this year, yet questions are around recent promotions and transparency remains. So this morning we're going beyond headlines into accountability and the future of policing. Policing is not just about enforcement, but it's about public trust, legitimacy, and confidence. Do you believe that the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force currently enjoys that trust?
Let me start out by saying that it is a citizen who determines the legitimacy of the police force. I came to this island just as a matter of fact, Friday was my 1 year since I was appointed Commissioner of Police.
Mm-hmm.
I came and I saw what I consider to be a broken police force.
Mm-hmm.
And we can try to get around it, but this is a reality, a broken police force. I embarked with my team on a journey to see how we can modernize, reform the force,
Mm-hmm.
to inspire public confidence and trust. It's a journey. The issue of the recent promotion that you have raised, when I look at social media, and I did a little glance, it's just a few people
Mm-hmm.
who continue to repeat themselves
Mm-hmm.
using anonymous names
Mm-hmm.
to question the legitimacy of the promotion. This promotion process
Mm-hmm.
was the most significant one.
Mm-hmm.
46 persons were promoted. The first time we have had the cohort of female that have been promoted
Mm-hmm.
in any promotion exam. The process, as I said, was very transparent. The first time we incorporate the community
Mm-hmm.
as a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did set up the panel, we had a permanent secretary,
Mm-hmm.
we had a community member,
Mm-hmm.
we had a religious person,
Mm-hmm.
and we had one member of the gazetted ranks
Mm-hmm.
within the organization. And interestingly, every one of those panels had a female.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not by chance, it was deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Because my intention was to move away from the process where the executive determine who is to be promoted
Mm-hmm.
and who is to go through the various processes.
Mm-hmm.
So my process was very transparent, and I make no apology about, and I will do it again. As a matter of fact, some of the PS, all of them actually, that sat on the panel,
Mm-hmm.
they say they want to implement something like that within their organization for future interviews. Very transparent.
So talking about this process, Commish, what was the process? Was it an examination that the officers took and then they sat in front of this panel for an interview? How many members were on this panel? Walk us through the exact process on how this was done.
The fact is that when I just took over,
Mm-hmm.
let me say the last time they had a promotion was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who were acting in posts for over 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we initially decided to do the promotion,
Mm-hmm.
there was all type of things being circulated about
Mm-hmm.
compromise and examination paper being leaked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I spoke to my executive and I said, to counter this, I will get an independent body to do the exam.
Right.
We looked within the region. There were about 3 universities. There was one from Trinidad, I think 2 from Trinidad, I think there was another one from America. I don't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the university, which is of the West Indies, is a household name within the
Mm-hmm.
region.
Mm-hmm.
So they were selected to lead on the investigation and the examination.
Mm-hmm.
They did, went through the process, did the exam, submit the marking. The marking that they gave was based on, there were 3 categories. Excellent, which was 70 and over. Very good, 60 to 69, and good, 50 to 59. They explain everything in detail. In fact, I published the explanation given by the university in our force order. And so the mark started from 60 upward. So those who got 60 upward were successful.
Okay, so they could be promoted. Anyone who got 60 and upward could have been promoted.
They would move on to the next stage.
Oh, okay.
They would move on to the next stage because there's another stage.
Okay.
But I need to hasten to say that the ASP exam, the assistant superintendent, their grade was 60, 60 and up. So the rank and file exam was consistent with the ASP in terms of the grades.
Okay.
Once you attain that grade, you move on to the interview. And that was when the panel were selected. There were 3 panels selected because there are over 50 odd people. I don't remember the exact amount of persons.
So the panels were rotated for different persons?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have different persons going to different panels.
Okay.
But the questions were consistent.
Right.
After the panel did the exercise, they submitted their comments and the grading, tallied, and then you average a grade, and that determined, whether the person was successful or not. After that process, for the rank and file, the divisional commanders, the immediate supervisors were written to for them to recommend in order of priority those to be promoted, because they are the one who work with them.
Right.
The promotion, maybe 95% was based on the recommendation, along other things, of the divisional commanders. So there's little or no influence by the force executive in, based on what was recommended by the divisional commander. This, when you talk to people, is the most transparent process in terms of the exams. So I have nothing to hide, really.
Commissioner, a lot of officers are still frustrated. A lot are still disappointed. A lot are still maybe demotivated. There was a leak of these results that were posted online, and we understand that you launched an investigation.
An investigation is ongoing.
Yes, about it. And this suggests that this was a breach at a very high level. Do you think that this was a case of an internal compromise within your senior ranks? And has this in any case demotivated you or caused you to kind of pull back in any sense with your executive force?
I will put it this way. What transpired has not assisted us as a force.
Right.
It has actually impacted on public confidence within our organization. Because if we as a body cannot keep confidential documents secured, then there are a number of questions to be answered. So my view, it's an unfortunate situation, and the matter is under investigation, so I don't wish to comment much more on it, but it's an unfortunate situation. And we lose as a police force by that action.
Commissioner, I just want to go back to something really quickly, because I've received a number of comments and phone calls and messages and of course, talks on the streets. These persons who may have gotten, let's say, a 65% and may have passed the interview, right? They've gone through these stages of the process, but maybe they don't get along with their divisional commander, let's say, or their divisional commander may not have recommended them for whatever personal reasons. What would you say to that person who hasn't been recommended for a promotion but has been in the force, let's say, for umpteen years?
It was made very clear in force order that promotion is not going to be based on an exam result.
Right.
There are other criteria that would be considered. Your discipline, your work, worth, and conduct. I will not promote a person who is questionable
Mm-hmm.
as a commissioner of police. It doesn't matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
The force, we talk about integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Integrity is not just a buzzword, it must be a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did background check on a number of persons. That's what I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Background check is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I was socialized that way, that
Mm-hmm.
before you are promoted, you have to check into the background
Right.
of the individual. There are also instances, and we have done integrity testing on a number of persons as well.
Mm-hmm.
That include polygraph. So, as I said, the process is transparent. There's not a perfect process. There's no process that is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say that this process was one of the most, if not the most, it's the most transparent promotion exercise. I've done my research into the history of the force and how the process has evolved. This is not an exclusive club that determines the promotion of people. It was widespread, it was broad, it has different category of people. The community, we serve the community. The panelists were people were taken from the community in which we serve to be part of the panel.
Right. And Commish, this incident, of course, has damaged morale internally, and it's caused a lot of chaos within the community, of course, along community members. How are you planning now to kind of bridge that gap and bring it back together?
I really don't necessarily agree that it has caused. There are a few people who I use it, entitled people, who are causing the problem. They use fake
aliases
and aliases and Facebook. The majority of the public, they are in support. If you look at the comments that have been made, the majority are in support. I am not going to be weighed down by that. My focus is to ensure that this country is safe, that we build a professional police force that is not subject to be manipulated by a few people, a police force that has proper processes, systems and structure. That's my aim. I'm just here 1 year, just 1 year. And the big question I ask, what was happening while we had 46 positions vacant within the police force? It's a small police force. And 46, I said it to somebody, that we dropped the ball as a force. And I should not be here to, basically I'm trying to reverse some bad decisions that were made in the past.
And you mentioned it, Commish, that you've been here a year and you're trying to make the place safe. So that leads me into my next point, that Turks and Caicos has been among the few jurisdictions that has been without a recorded murder this year to date. And do you credit that to policing success, circumstance, or all?
It is strategy, policing strategy. It never came by mistake. It's a deliberate strategy that we have employed. And I'm going to go into the details of those, but and we'll continue to ensure that the country is safe. I mean, when you look at our community engagement, our deployment strategy that we have employed, our high visibility policing, and all the other policing activities, that's deliberate. It's not by chance, really. We have arrested a number of criminals who were problems. I am mindful that there are still a number that are still there trying to seize the opportunity but we will not allow them to. And I make this commitment to this country that we are not going back to where we are coming from. We are building an organization, an institution that is resilient, that can stand to any form of pressure. And that's my plan, and that's what we are working to. When you look at some of the things that we are doing in terms of capacity building, the amount of persons that have been exposed to middle management training, those who have been exposed to tactical training. We had just recently, we had 20 people, including members from the regiment, members from the force, that went and did level 2 of the tactical training. We have had over 10 persons who did the junior command course. Currently, there are about 5 who are currently doing it, including, because I'm trying to be inclusive, I have actually invited border force also, and they have about 2 people also doing that training. So what we are doing, we are building an institution that transcends personality. At the end of the day, there must be choices for leadership, not just one person waiting for their turn. It must be a competitive type of environment where different people can compete for different positions in the force. We can't sit back and believe that the world is going to wait on us. The world is going to come to a halt and wait on Turks and Caicos Island. We have to align ourselves with contemporary society and modern policing so that we can become a part of this global mix.
Kamesh, we're mentioning it again, 1 year here. Personally for you, what have your accomplishments been? What do you think you've done in this year? Personally, saying that you came into a broken force, how do you think that you fixed that? And what do you think you've brought to the table in this year?
It is a process, really. One thing I can say, I bring credibility to this organization. People can try my credibility. And I think a leader must be credible. That's important. If you are going to win, you must come with credibility. You must come with clean hands. And I think I bring that. I bring my experience, 40 years experience, in terms of dealing with some of the most volatile and vicious type of crimes and communities. I come with my experience working in strategic position within in terms of my former job, and I come with my exposure to different level of managerial engagement as well as qualification. I come with that. With a training, I come with a critical element of policing is how you are able to navigate difficulties. So your emotional intelligence is also important in the mix. So I think I come with that, and I come with a Christian background. That's how I have been socialized. And one of the things about me, when I'm doing something, I'm fully invested. And I want to say to Turks and Caicos Island, I am invested in this country. My entire energy, I made a lot of sacrifice to be here, and I am fully invested in serving the people of Turks and Caicos Islands, making you safe, making the force resilient, you see, we have to understand that if there's problem in TCI, in terms of violence, it's not just about TCI. It impacts on so many other. Regionally, we look at the volatility of our tourism industry. I don't know if Turks and Caicos Islands, they are really conscious of how fragile such an industry is and how important it is for us to protect it and guard it. And I think we all should rally around this drive. My ambition, is to make these islands the safest in the region. People must talk about the level of peace and tranquility, the level of non-violence in Turks and Caicos Island. And that is one of the things. This can become almost a niche if all hands are on deck and work together to create this type of society, not only for ourselves, but for our children and for the next generation. And I think we need to get out of this selfish attitude and look beyond. There are people who just see the tree now. We have to look at the forest. And sometimes when you make decisions, people can only see the tree. But you have to look, we see the forest.
Look beyond.
And so that's the reality.
Kamesh, you mentioned something, and I just want to go back a minute. Like when it comes to breaches, for example, right? We talk about the executive. When you came into this position, there was quite a lot of talk, again, on social media about there being a disconnect between the executive, the lower ranked officers, yourself. Is there currently an issue within the force? Because we constantly hear about a disconnect between the executive, the lower ranks, the foreign officers versus the local officers.
I really don't. I'm not. I mean, it's a real world. It's a real world, but I don't think that is really a big issue any longer. I mean, for me, I operate an open door policy, so any member generally can see me and have discussion. I think if there were some, I think the barriers are gradually breaking, and people are having greater access. I don't think that is a big problem any longer. Between conflicts, I'm not aware of any conflict between the foreign. I mean, I know that the Jamaicans who are here sometimes they are subject to some serious abuse and unfortunate statement. And I think I need to say, these are men and women who have left their family. They never applied or asked to be here. We went to Jamaica and we met with the government and asked for their assistance. And these men and women, they volunteer. I mean, they are paid, yes, but there are opportunities that they could have gone. There are other opportunities. And they came, and there's no doubt that they have contributed significantly to the reduction of crime and violence in the society. They have gone places where generally the police would not have gone. And the impact is evident. And sometimes I wish the citizen could have been a little more kind in terms of how they, I hear people using some expression sometimes, which is a minority, because when I go into the field, the majority of people are actually in support, and they are begging me actually not to send them back. But their tenure will come to an end, definitely. And I know that there are some people who are waiting them out. I know that. But I want to issue a warning. You're not going to go back. We're not going to go back where we are coming from. With or without the Jamaicans, we are going to ensure that TCI is safe. So those who are waiting, they can wait. It's not going to happen again.
Commission, in terms of a human capacity standpoint and not just an executive, but across the board in the force, are you satisfied with the disciplinary mechanisms that are in place?
So what we are doing now, we are introducing what is called an Inspector General. That is a work in progress. We are doing interviews. Once that person is selected, that person will have responsibility for discipline, not only discipline, but standard within the force. In terms of ensuring that the processes are complied with, policies and procedures are complied with, inspections are done, and those things that are audits of stations and resources. So yes, there are issues with discipline, but it's a work in progress. I think we are strengthening the disciplinary arm of the police force.
Have we seen a number of officers in your tenure for the last year? Have we seen a number of officers maybe been suspended or even removed in the last 12 months?
We have had instances where officers have been suspended, officers have been fined. I have actually imposed sentence on a few officers in terms of breaches of discipline. I remember one was demoted in rank. And I mean, there are other that were fined. So yes, there's a disciplinary process. I guess maybe we need to be more, transparent in terms of reporting on some of those.
Would you say that number is high?
I wouldn't say it's high. I wouldn't say it's high, but we have had some. It could be more robust, and I think that's the aim, to make the disciplinary process more robust. It's not that you are trying to be too, you don't want to use force and punishment, because the process will involve, coaching and mentoring and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you don't conform, then there are going to be consequences.
Commissioner Bailey, we spoke about it just now briefly when we talked about going to Jamaica and asking for the Jamaicans' assistance, right? The growing public perception, of course, was that we developed this close relationship with Jamaica, of course, because that's your home, right? But are we growing partnerships with other regional partners? I know we had the Bahamians come in at one point. Are we growing any partnerships with our other regional partners, maybe with Barbados, maybe with other police forces in the Caribbean or even the UK to come and assist us at some point in time? Any strategic choices of that nature?
Well, we have, remember, prior when the Jamaican came, there were also Bajans
Okay.
as a part of the contingent. There were 10 Bajans. One of the things that we have to understand is accessibility and the willingness for these, because there's more than just I can't go to Barbados.
Right.
There are government relations,
Right.
you call it geopolitics if you want to
Right.
call that, that is involved. We have CARICOM that we work very closely with,
Policies
the
and-
RSS,
yes.
etc., that is providing significant support. We have British officers who, and they are mostly involved in investigation. As a matter of fact, maybe 6 will be onboarded in a short by the 1st of next month to support the investigative process. So we are in dialogue. The bottom line is, and I will say that I came from Jamaica. I have a lot of influence, and I had some influence, and I still have influence. I could just avoid doing some of the things, but whatever I do is for the sake of improving TCI. One of the things that Jamaica has the largest police force within the region, the largest police force within the region. So that's a reality.
Kamish, is the country safer today, in your opinion, than it was 1 year ago?
By far. We had last year, 2024, we had 48 murders in 1 year. TCI was rated as the most violent nation within Latin America and the Caribbean per capita, murder per capita. That was 2024. Those of us who follow international news and the reality on the ground, there we had cancellation of people who had booked to spend their vacation in TCI. The people of TCI was petrified and in fear. 2025, we saw a reduction by 43.4% in murder. And all other major crime went down. We did our perception, customer perception. That was done by our communication, and that sort of confidence has been significantly improved. When I go on the street, without even the empirical data, just the way people relate to you and they come across and thank you and say they feel safe. One of the things people don't know, that as commissioner, I go out sometime with my men at nights, go into the communities. And when I go into places like Dockyard and Five Keys, people are coming over and say, thank, we feel safe now. We can move about in our community at night. During the festive season, I've been to a number of places, and that's the sort of review I'm getting. Now, 2025, we saw that significant. We are now 2026. We are now at 55% reduction in major crime with no murder. The last time we had the first quarter without murder was 2019. There's no attempted murder. I could give you the data. I don't think we could ask for much better. I mean, we are progressing well, and we intend to keep this progress. A critical component of policing is not just to prevent crime. I think one of the areas that we'll have to emphasize, and I'm really focusing on that, is how do we clear up these crimes? Because if the crimes are committed, when they are committed and they are not cleared up, then it emboldens the individuals to continue. So we are looking now at how we can create a regime. We had a discussion just recently in terms of how we can establish, for example, a cold case department to look at cold
Cold
case.
case unit.
There are a number of persons who were victims of crime and there are still unanswered questions. There are homicides that were committed, and I think the witnesses, the family, they want closure to them. And so those are some of the areas that we want to focus on. I remember 2024 when we had that murder of this lady. I don't remember her name, I think it was 5 Keys. She was taken out of our business place and shot and killed. That still rests on my mind, and I think we need closure to that. I generally have an idea who did it, but it's just to get the witness to come forward.
I can remember a few from a few years ago.
Yeah, and to deal with that. So I think that's an area that we really need to focus on. But in terms of confidence, in terms of reduction, in terms of people feeling safe, I get it even from the tourism. I mean, that award that was given to me, which I accepted on behalf of the force, is a testament of the fact that people now feel safer. I'm told that you can't get a room now because the tourism product is just bursting its seams, and there's this booming, So there is definitely.
We've also had a significant firearm ammunition seizure, but commish, with that, we take firearms off the streets, we take ammunition off the streets. We have these laws where you have, 12 years for a firearm minimum. But there seems to be a disconnect with the judiciary and the police. You go to the court and you're given bail for a firearm charge. How are we going to rectify this?
I think there has to be legislative change, yes. And I go back, and if I may, at some time, you don't want to reference where you're from. I was one of the advocates in Jamaica against people being charged for serious offenses and granted bail. I spoke out very, very, if I want to say violently, against it, sometimes to the displeasure of the judges, even the Chief Justice. But one of the problems we had was that a number of persons, once they are granted bail, they reoffend. And they continue to reoffend. So legislative changes were done to make it more difficult for a judge to grant bail for those serious offenses. In fact, in our legislation in Jamaica, if a judge will have to give a reason in writing for granting bail. And the easier way is not to grant the bail if you have to give justifiable reason for certain serious offenses.
Because, for example, here, I know we saw it, remember, when we had all of these visitors with these ammunition in their luggage, and they were here for so long, and then given a fine and left. And then we had certain locals who were found with firearms and ammunition and granted bail, and even one of the officers recently granted bail on a firearm or ammunition charge, and it's posed questions among the public, right? And it's why are we, people are saying probably, why are we pinpointing certain people? But is it the legislation, or are there laws in place for this, or do we just need to tweak the law in a sense?
The role of the police is to investigate, arrest, and place people before the court. The court, in terms of bail, that's a function of the court. So the police really can't impose. We can, through the prosecutor, oppose bail, but at the end of the day, it's the final decision rests with the judge. Unless it's outside the remit of the police, really. But unless there are legislative framework to mitigate or to prevent that, I mean, the judges, remember, the judges, they are an independent, and one has to be very careful that you don't infringe on the independence of the judiciary. So I think those are discussion that I should say above my pay grade. I mean, I can speak if there are issues impacting on us as a police force. I can speak to the the authority regarding those issues, and it's for them to make a determination in terms of whether they need to change the legislative framework, so that and the reality, judges do not love when their powers are restricted. That's a reality. It's not unique here. Anywhere you go, the judges, they love their independence. But I need to speak on the issue of the foreigners with those rounds, and I personally believe that the current regime is fine. I don't think, when you, for instance, people coming from the United States, and just be pragmatic and practical. These are people, there's no restriction on firearm, no restriction on ammunition. Unless you can establish that these individuals came with the intention of leaving ammunition and weapon here. I mean, I was going to the airport recently, and to my amazement, I had some ammunition, some rounds in my carry-on, because I had it and I just left my office
She was
with
trying
it.
to get locked up.
Yeah, so the point is, I can imagine some of those travelers who they have a responsibility to ensure. But I think imposing the fine, I think that is. But a person who is on island, what is the purpose of them carrying a weapon? Right. That's a different category in my view, and I think the current regime is fine in dealing with those.
So, Commissioner, if your tenure was to end, let's say today, tomorrow, what should the people of the Turks and Caicos say that you did that strengthened the force?
There are a number of things. I need to go to some of the things that there are better institutional framework in terms of addressing violent crimes. That's one. There's a significant capacity building that I have. When I came, I talk about building capacity. We continue to build capacity within the force. Some of the people that were exposed, you'll see the difference in terms of their experience, the way they operate, their planning, their engagement. It is very, very clear. It also inspires greater confidence. When you look at institutional change, the highway patrol that was established, I believe that's a game changer. The very present and the effectiveness of that. And it's a pilot. There's a human trafficking unit that was established. Human trafficking is a global issue. Turks and Caicos Islands is not different from any other country. In fact, there was some publication last year expressing concerns about human trafficking in TCI. Prior to that established, there was no unit to focus on that. In terms of, I mean, currently, maybe this is the first time we have 2 female officers, gazetted officer within the force. So there's greater inclusiveness. When you look at the court, and I come back to the promotion, the amount of female that were elevated at different level, that's unprecedented. We have to recognize that the world is changing. And sometimes we, as male, we believe that we are the dominant force or in an organization, but there needs to be equity. It's not based on your gender, it's based on your capacity. And I think that focus, you see, sometimes we follow the principle of position must be quitted to individual based on years of service. But what I have built is to say, it's not your years of service, it's your competence. It's your ability to manage and to operate. That is important. I have promoted one person from constable to assistant superintendent. A young man with intellectual brilliance, a young man with strategic vision. He's an islander. Nobody talks about that anymore. But these are some of the things to say we must spot talents
Mm-hmm.
within the organization
Mm-hmm.
and don't suppress talent.
Right.
Build them up, expose them.
Right.
So I've set the tone
Mm-hmm.
for those, if someone takes over, the difficulty that
Build
I
on it.
have had,
Mm-hmm.
they will not have those difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about the dismantling of gangs.
Mm-hmm.
I was told there were, I think, 14 gangs or something like 5 gangs, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they now?
Mm-hmm.
They have been disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
They are in custody.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk about, when you look at the border establishing, we have, it's about human trafficking, which is a part of border force, border protection. You talk about high visibility in terms of our traffic enforcement, and it's there. We see it every day on the road. I talk about the highway patrol, greater community engagement.
Right.
I talk about capacity building, we invest in our people, training, technology. What we have now is what I call a robust IT unit headed by this young man that was recently promoted, and we are making significant advancement in terms of implementing proper technological solution and system within the force. I mean, and I could go on and on and on. So I think for the first year, I could have done much more if the support was there. It's a difficult police force. That's all I will say.
Commish, you touched on it just a while ago, and I want to just go into depth about it a minute. I want to congratulate them, first of all, and a big shout out to them. Community policing, the community policing unit, to Inspector Huntley Forbes Jr. and his team. They are fantastic. They're an amazing unit.
Yes.
Are they properly resourced, though? And how have they contributed to some of the success of the force over the year that you've been here?
I think community engagement is one of those areas that build credibility and break down barriers. And I think that unit has assisted significantly in breaking down the barriers that exist. I mean, some of the communities where there's that hostility between the police and the community.
They've been the bridge.
They have been the bridge to break down those barriers. You know, I had a discussion, incidentally, yesterday with Inspector Forbes, and we were talking about community policing, and I was discussing some plans, and I, requested some projection in terms of that. And he was relating a story about the Jamaican officers going into, I think it was either 5 Key or Dockyard. They conducted a raid on a property, and the parent, the father, was really upset with the Jamaicans that they came in and they did, albeit that the raid was lawful.
Right.
But he had a child that was.
Oh, yes, okay.
And he indicated that he was upset.
Right.
And now he's thanking the Jamaicans for what they did. Because after that experience, and they took in the guy, they talked to him, he's a transformed person. He said, the son comes in, he's going to send me because it is written in Creole, he said he's going to send me what he got from the gentleman. The son, he comes in early, he makes up his bed, he does everything that a boy ought to do. And so these are some of the things. Not only do the communities they break the barriers, that bridge, but they also provide feedback to us about the gauge of the community regarding police involvement. So they are playing a critical, and I think in terms of investment, we'll never have enough. For me, management is about how you use the scarce resources to its optimal. And is how you use that's what management is all about. It's not about the amount of resources. Whilst you want more, government will never be able to provide all the resources that we need for the police force. And whilst I'm on that, I must acknowledge the administration for the constant support. Generally, when we ask, even though we may not get the exact amount that we want, but there's always that response. You look at supporting like the border, we have had new boats, and we continue to get new boats. There we had, I think there might be 2 additional boats, the 2 largest boats that we'll have on the islands. I mean, in terms of vehicle support, we have been getting that. Technological support. As I said, we may not get everything we want, but there's that constant support. And I really want to thank the administration, the governor, for their support to the police.
So, Commissioner, that leads to my next question. My mother had a former co-host who's now turned minister who used to ask, if I had a blank check and I gave it to you right now, how much would you ask for and where would it go?
I think I can't say how much, but investing in our people. Because when you invest in our people, it's something you can't take back. And I think there needs to be greater investment in the people within the force. Capacity building, infrastructure, ensure that the appropriate infrastructure is in place. Condition of service is also important. Most of the times, the officers do spend the greater part of their day at work. And you want to ensure that the environment in which they work is conducive to, working. The way an officer deport themselves, those are the things that inspire confidence. So what I think is investing in the people. That and then technology. I will use that blank check for that.
For technology.
And investing in our people, capacity building.
Commish, we're almost out of time. We have about 10 minutes left, and I need to talk to you about a pressing issue that the public keeps asking about, and that is traffic.
Can I just
Sure.
give you some data?
Sure, no problem.
That? Because
No
you
problem.
spend a lot of time on the promotion.
No problem.
And I just want to give you some data.
Sure.
In the Turks and Caicos Islands police force, there are 83 Jamaicans. Not talking about those that are on secondment. Those are not included. There are 155 islanders, 31 Vincentians, 10 BOTC, and Asians 23, and TT, Trinidad Tobago 12. Those are the others are in single digit. I think I need to make this very clear. There are 54 sergeants within the police force. Of those 54, there are 22 islanders. There are 12 Vincentians. I told you the Vincentian is 31 Vincentians, 83 Jamaicans. There are 10 Jamaicans. And then you have Trinidads, two from Trinidad, and the rest 3 from Gambia, but those are the significant amount of sergeant. I go to the rank of inspector. There are 30 inspectors, 11 islanders, 9 Vincentian, and there are 31 Vincentians in the force. 5 Jamaicans. And I'm not going to go to the rest. They are significance. In terms of superintendent, there are 2 superintendents and they are islanders. There are 1 assistant commissioner, 2 assistant commissioner, islanders. In the last promotion, 6 people were promoted as ASP, and they're all islanders. I gave those statistics to debunk the idea that people are of the view that I am promoting Jamaicans over every other nationality and Turks and Caicos Island.
Right.
So let me go to the traffic issue. I think I understand the impatience of the citizens of Turks and Caicos Island. I have traveled right across the globe. I've been to several countries. Every city I know, there is this traffic problem. I don't know of any. Maybe I've not been to one yet. There might be. If you go within the region, Trinidad, Jamaica, anywhere, there is a traffic problem. What we have in TCI is not really a police problem, you know. It's an infrastructure problem. When we tried to, because the problem has always been there. So we met some time ago with the people who had responsibility for roads, and we came up with a plan. And then the police over time decided that they are going to try, it's a test.
Mitigation
Mitigation
measures, right?
measure, yeah. So they instituted that process. I think it was, what, 3 days? I think it was. I am not certain we have given it enough time to see how it works. There's nothing that you do that is new that will not have teething pain.
Right.
And I think it was just an effort to try and mitigate the problem of congestion. We heard the outcry of the citizens, and we have reverted to the original arrangement.
In your opinion, do you think it worked?
The one that we did? I think it would work, you know, if we're given enough time, because you will have to make adjustment. We're doing our assessment, so we make our adjustment in phases.
Right.
I don't know anywhere in the world where you have highways, because we can call Leeward the highway, where you have so many entrance and exits. Those are the things that really cause congestion. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. But we will have to work, and we are reassessing, and we will be meeting with the various stakeholders. And we want to get citizens who are not public officials also will be meeting, because one of the things that I'm going to use is to go into the community, to get their opinion, to get their views, to get public officials who have that responsibility, and see how we can come up with something to mitigate. It's difficult because there are infrastructural problems, but if we can create an ease of the congestion. But it's really a problem. Well, as I said, when you go across the world, what we call a big problem here is not really a big problem in other society, but we understand.
Kamish, do you think that having traffic police at certain areas would mitigate some of these problems at certain times, or?
We have a big infrastructural problem. Whilst I believe that there must be high visibility, and I speak to the men and women, there's a difference between traffic enforcement and traffic management. And so my perspective and my directive is that during the peak hour, unless there's something that is outrageous, we just do traffic management and not enforcement. We are trying to see how we can manage it. It's difficult, the bottleneck, the choke points, you know, how do we deploy? But again, it comes back to the indiscipline of some of our drivers, who continue to exhibit some level of impatience, and it's more selfishness sometimes. But it's a problem, but we are working to try and see how we can not fix, but reduce the level of congestion on our roads.
So, Commissioner, in a perfect world, if you had a magic wand and you could snap your fingers today, what would you like the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force to look like?
A professional police force that inspires the confidence of the citizen. A police force that every citizen, irrespective, as about everyone that comes to this island, they can feel confident that if they come to and make a report, they will get quality service. Quality service in the institution, quality service in the enforcement of the law. That is what I envisage, a professional, well-structured police force with integrity, and one that offer quality A1 service to the public.
Commissioner, I want you to take 60 seconds, look at this camera, give a message to your hardworking staff of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, and then 60 seconds to the citizens of the Turks and Caicos Islands, just a message that you would like to leave with them.
I want to say to all the members of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, first of all, thank you for your dedication, for your commitment, for your hard work, for making the sacrifice, even your family, to serve this nation. I am committed to promoting your interests and the interests of the organization. I beg you to be focused. Do not be distracted by the noise, but act professionally and continue to recognize that your greatest obligation is to serve the citizens of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Quality service, and every interaction you have with the citizen, ensure that the citizen would want to come back to you for service. So the quality service is very important. And again, thank you for your service and for your commitment. And to the citizen of Turks and Caicos Islands, when I took my oath, I took an oath to serve. And I am committed to be your chief servant, to serve you with all my energy, to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islands become the envy of the region in terms of crime reduction and ensuring the safety of our citizens, to remove crime and the fear of crime. I am committed to serve you. In the same breath, I solicit your support and your cooperation. Thank you.
Commissioner Bailey, thank you so much for joining me this morning. 1 hour felt so short, but so knowledgeable, so in-depth. Thank you so much for taking the time out, and thank you so much for being very open and transparent with us. We hope you come back. You always have an open invitation to come back and speak with us at any time. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Turks and Caicos, policing is not just about results, it's about trust. Progress is clear, but so is the need for transparency and confidence in the system. The public expectation is simple: a police force that is effective, accountable, and trusted. To the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, thank you so much for everything that you do. Continue to serve with pride and integrity. Thank you so much for joining us. This is First Edition. I'm Zoya Faessler.